So again, welcome to the Center for Applied AI's weekly Lunchbox webinar. My name is Ed Mellick. I'm the Director of Business Development for the Center. We also call it C4A at times. In a few minutes, I'm going to be introducing today's presenter, but first a quick word about what we do. We are part of the AI, the AI-focused part of UMBC training centers. The training centers are a DC, Baltimore-based nonprofit, and we provide technology, leadership, innovation, and project management training services to the government and private sectors. Some of our clients include the NSA, T. Rowe Price, Army Research Lab, BGE Exelon, Army Cyber Command, a lot of different companies. Our classes are expert taught and applied learning focused. So when you take classes with us, in particular, if you're preparing for a certification exam, you're going to pass the exam probably because we're really going to give you practical hands-on training. We offer off-the-shelf training, highly customized training, and pretty much everything in between. So today's Lunch and Learn session is on full circle data analysis, going to be presented by Dhruv Ratra, one of our many expert instructors. And Dhruv, please take it away.
Thank you, Ed. Hope everyone can see my screen and can hear me clearly. I'm just, for bandwidth consideration, I'm just going to turn off my video and I will get started. So welcome, everyone. As Ed mentioned, I'll be using ChatGPT along with Google Colab to kind of for data analysis and data modeling purposes, and just show you the power of generative AI in combination with a tool like Python in a interactive framework like Google Colab or Jupyter Notebook. So in this example today, I have an e-commerce data set. Those of you who have been at my other talks with data analysis, data visualization, it's a pretty standard data set that has a lot of transactions, about 10,000 records or so. And I'm going to be looking at using that information to try and model churn. And first we have to define what churn means. And then we're going to use kind of very sophisticated tree of thought prompting, which is very powerful for kind of more complicated kind of interactions with a chatbot. I'll talk a little bit about feature engineering. How do we kind of enhance the data set? And then, since we're using a tool like ChatGPT, I'll kind of give some tips and tricks about how do we validate the code that is being created by ChatGPT, and how do we spot check and make sure there are no errors, because we're kind of using ChatGPT to kind of create a lot of code for us, but as we all know, it's not necessarily 100% correct. I'll talk a little bit more about kind of the modeling capabilities, about handling of imbalance, kind of setting up a baseline model, look at improvements over the baseline model. And I'll throw in a few more things that are less programming related, such as, how do we keep track of something so complicated, maybe in a task management, like a project management framework like Notion. And then, maybe how do we generate a report of all the work we've done? So it's an aggressive set of topics that I'd like to cover, and then we can jump into Q&A. So just a few things that I'm going to assume about you folks, because this is more of a much more esoteric talk here. I have a data set, a 10,000 record data set, a CSV file, orders. You can see it over here. And if you look at it in Excel, you can see kind of there's some order information, customer information, product information, transaction information. So a fair amount. There are about 20 odd attributes and about 10,000 odd records, and we'll be kind of evaluating this data set and using it as our training data for building a model. So I'm going to assume you guys know a little bit about data processing, data analysis, data modeling, kind of whether the awesome framework of data science or any other kind of experience that you have. I'll also assume that you guys are familiar with an interactive kind of notebook environment like Google Colab. If you've used Jupyter notebooks or Kaggle notebooks, very similar. You don't really need to know Python inside and out. You don't have to be an expert, but you need to know what a data frame is, because we'll be talking about data frames. So these are some of the assumptions. And then lastly, I'm going to assume you guys are familiar with, these the latest iteration of chatbots like ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, and be aware that, while they're trained on massive data sets, they do tend to generate either incomplete or incorrect results. So we can't rely on them 100%. And I'll show you kind of how we're going to work through this whole process using ChatGPT to enhance our data science experience, our data analysis and data modeling experience. And the tree of thought prompting, I'll just kind of go over it at a high level over here, and then I'll when we get into the nitty gritty, I'll talk some more. It was something that was kind of articulated back late December. There's a paper on if you just search tree of thoughts, Princeton and Google DeepMind. So these are pretty advanced researchers that have come up with this framework of prompting that is very powerful for complex reasoning, right? You want solutions that involve complex reasonings. So some of you, you're familiar with kind of the straight shot prompting or a chain of thought, which is a serial prompting. A tree of thought kind of goes level by level, and at each level it does it kind of removes some of the outliers and then continues down the tree. And there are some crazy success rate enhancements that can be generated using this mechanism of prompting. Okay, so we'll look at this in real life, and with that, I'm going to move on to kind of the demo. So I've already shown you kind of the orders the orders data set. I have my ChatGPT open here. This bar at the top is bothering me. Okay, there it's gone. Okay, and just to save time, I've kind of in a Word document over here, I've kind of maybe I'll just hide this. Show tabs only. Okay, I'll get more space here. So just to save time, I've created all my prompts in this Word document. I'm just going to copy and paste. A couple of things. This is going to be a bit of a challenge in the sense that I'm going to be doing some prompts in real time that might throw ChatGPT off. And so I'm hoping we're not going to encounter too many kind of hallucinations that will require my trying to debug it in real time. So I've tried this a few times, and there are a few, and I'll actually show you when you do get a hallucination or you do get an error, how you can then go back to ChatGPT and fix that as well. But I don't want to spend too much time on error handling. The other thing I just want to warn you about before the last few sessions I've been working with GPT-4, it's been throwing me out saying I've reached my limit, and it's throwing me down to GPT 3.5. So let's see. Hopefully, I'm not going to have that experience today. So I'm going to provide a kind of an initial prompt to define, to kind of understand, to kind of interact with ChatGPT, give it some context, and try to kind of use it as a starting point. So I'm just going to tell ChatGPT that I have a data set of e-commerce transactions stored in my Google Drive, and I define the fields in that. I define kind of what's in that data set. I give a first few lines of the data set. I just copy and paste from the CSV file in here, and then at the very bottom here, I say I want to build a model to predict customer churn. Give me 5 ways to measure churn, right? What's the definition of churn? So I'm just going to copy this. I've also tried to kind of minimize the explanation and kind of the irrelevant information that ChatGPT, or not irrelevant, but secondary information that ChatGPT provides to try and kind of for this demo to speed it up. But in real life, you may not want to kind of turn off a lot of things that I have. So I've given ChatGPT kind of this kind of, here's my data set. Here's the definition of here are the first few records, the definition of the data set. Like, how do we build a model to predict customer churn? Give me 5 ways to define churn. What do you think? So it's spitting out its stuff. It's talking about frequency churn, decrease in volume. So if people are kind of buying less and less, or people are engaging kind of less and less, or the time is getting longer and longer, so there's some different ways to measure churn. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to say, for this project, I'm just going to copy that over. For this project, let's define a customer who has not made a purchase in the last 12 months as churned, right? And I'm just going to give this context. I'm not asking it to do anything other than say, if you understand this, just say, yes, data Jedi Master. Otherwise, it's going to give me this whole spiel of, how this is good, and, maybe even giving Python code. So I'm just setting a baseline here and saying, okay, let's define a customer who has not made any purchase in the past 12 months as churned, right? If you understand this, just say yes. Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to say, now let's work on kind of the Python code. So provide the Python code in a single block with relevant comments to prepare my data, keeping in mind that my data set is in my Google Drive and I plan to execute this code in Google Colab. Provide only the code, no need to provide any explanations, right? So I'm interacting with it in the way that I want. So it's going to give me the information. It's going to give me comments. I can ask it, if I said, hey, put in comments that, a business user will understand, or it'll give me more comments, or put in comments that someone else, at a different level, you can kind of control the level of commenting. So here's the code. And the good thing I'm noticing is, okay, it's giving me the Google Colab. It's going to import the Google Colab libraries. And it says, update this path. So I've told it it's orders.cfe, but it's warning me that maybe I need to update the path. And it's going to do its thing here. So I'm just going to copy this code. And now, assuming you guys know what Google Colab is and it's connected to my home drive and I have the orders.csv file here, I'm just going to go in here and add a code block, copy this, and I need to remember, I just need to change this to my specific file path, which is orders.csv. It's at the parent directory over here. Everything else kind of looks fine. I'm just going to click on this to execute the code. And it says, okay, it has created the churned attribute, 0s for not churned, 1 for churned. So this customer ID has purchased kind of late, it hasn't purchased. The data set ends at December 2019. So this person has not purchased in more than a year and has been identified as churned. Okay, so far so good. Now I'm going to go and I want to kind of define some features for my data set. I'm going to say, provide, let's perform feature engineering. Give me 5 features that might help. So basically what I'm going to enhance my data set with new attributes, new variables that are going to be kind of the inputs that are going to be used to define whether someone has churned or not. So I'm going to say, give me 5 examples. So this is the beginning of my tree of thought process here. Give me 5 examples. So it's talking about recency of purchase, frequency. Here are certain features that could be kind of inputs into defining churn. So recency, frequency, monetary value, average discount utilized, whether people have utilized discounts. So these are ways of kind of identifying customers who might have churned. Okay, so I'm going to go back to ChatGPT, and I'm doing this separately. You don't really have to do it so individually, step by step, but I'm doing it separately to kind of lead you through the process here. I'm going to, so for each of these proposed features, evaluate their potential, consider the pros and cons, initial effort, implementation difficulty, potential challenges, expected outcomes, assign a probability of success and a confidence level to each option. So I have 5 potential features and I'm saying, hey, evaluate them and give me like a probability of success. While it's doing its thing, I'm going to go back and copy the next set here, the next instruction. So you can see it's kind of going through. Here's feature one, recency of purchase. It's a strong predictor of engagement. Like if people are purchasing, have purchased in the recent past, strong feature of engagement, right? And the effort is low, and the probability of success of using this feature is pretty high, 80%. And ChatGPT is very confident that this is a high probability of success. So you can see 80%, 75%, 70%. And the reason you'll see why the tree of thought becomes so powerful is because I've asked it to give me 5. These may not be the 5 best ones, right? You can see 60% whether they've utilized discount or not. %65 here. Okay. I'm going to say, let's remove the 2 lowest options based on the probability of success. List the remaining options only with their probability of success scores. So just eliminate 2 of them. Now I'm going to add 5 more, and I'm going to eliminate 2 of them. So I'm going to continuously kind of repeat this process, which is kind of at the heart of the tree of thought prompting framework. So I'm going to say now provide 5 new features that might help predict churn. This time only provide a probability of success and a confidence level. Don't give me all the pros and cons. If you're doing this on the job, maybe you'll want all the details, but I'm doing this to kind of speed up the process. And you can see there's already customer lifetime. There's already a probability of success 70%. Right, some of these others have dropped down, but there's already one here that's higher than than many that were provided in the first round. Right, so I'm going to go back again. I'm going to say once again, remove the bottom 2 features based on the probability of success. Combine the second set of 3 features with the first set of 3 selected features. List all 6 only with the probability of success. Right, so that's the essence of tree of thought, right? So you're going to go level by level, cull out some of the leaves, and then kind of continuously add more. I could do this 4 or 5 more times, right? I could say, hey, give me 5 more. Let's add those in. And in the end, maybe I get a bunch of features that are in the 75, 80%, 90% range, right? But for the purpose of this demo, I'm just going to stick with these 6. So these are 6. So I'm going to say now we need to create these 6 features that will help us predict churn, right? How recent was the purchase? How frequently did the user purchase? How much did they purchase, right? What the lifetime? The average cycle, and if there were any refunds that were given to the customer, right? A customer may purchase a lot. They may purchase big dollar amounts, but they're not very good customers if they're continuously refunding their purchases, right? So this is a good feature to keep in mind. So I'm going to say, provide the Python code in a single block with comments to prepare these features in a single data frame. Also include the churned variable created previously. Name the resulting data frame features. The last step in the code should list the variables in the data frame and show the first few records. No need to provide any explanations. Again, if you're doing this and you're not comfortable with, you're not a hardcore coder, you may want more comments, you may want more explanation. So we'll let us do this thing here. So we can see we had 6 features. We have the churned Boolean flag. I'm only seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, but let's see. Let's copy the code, go back to our Python here, a Google Colab, enter the code and click run. Let's see what happens. And it is complaining. It's giving me an error. Here's an example where it doesn't work. So I'm going to copy this and go back to ChatGPT and say, I got the following error from your code. I just paste it in here and click. It appears the error was caused by assuming the presence of refunded column. So actually the refunded column is in the other spreadsheet, which doesn't come across in the CSV file because it doesn't have multiple spreadsheets. So it has identified that there was an error in its code based on an assumption that it had made, and it's now going to fix it. All I had to do was just copy this code, put it back in, and let's copy this new piece of code, go back here, and let's see. And it runs. And now we can see it has given me the churned Boolean flag 1, 2, 3, 4. It's missing one of the here. It's missing one, and it's missing the refunded. But just in the interest of time, I could go back and say, hey, you're missing another feature. But in the interest of time, I'm just going to keep these 4 features that have been added to the data set. Okay. ChatGPT has done a lot of stuff for me so far. And it's created this data set for me. But what I want to know is, how do we know that it was created properly, right? Now I'm going to use ChatGPT to check its work. How can we check that the new features were created correctly? Provide 3 methods, including reviewing descriptive stats as well as a visual inspection, right? So be very careful when you're using, chatbots, but keep in mind that you can use them to check their own work, right? So descriptive stats, visual inspection through histograms, cross verification with raw data. Okay, I'm just going to copy this Python code for descriptive stats. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to run this code, copy and paste. And if I wanted to, I can check, churned. Yes, the minimum is 0, the maximum is 1, and it's giving me the counts. It's giving me all the. So I would go piece by piece just to make sure that the descriptive stats actually made sense. I don't want purchases of negative or timelines that are negative and stuff like that, right? But for the interest of this demo, I'm going to go to visual inspection, copy that code, come in here, paste it in here, and run it. Let's see what it does. And once again, I'm just using this, using ChatGPT to self-check its work, right? So let's assume everything's good. Let's assume it's self-checked its work. We'll do one more. We'll do one more self-check. We'll tell ChatGPT now, hey, that's good at an overall level. Now I want you to identify 3 random users in the data set. You've done a calculation, and I want you to do the calculation step by step in front of me and show me that the end result of that step-by-step calculation that you did just now is the same as what is in that data frame that you handed to me previously, if that makes sense. So show me now on the blackboard, so to speak, or the whiteboard, your student there going step by step. Okay, this is how I calculated this feature. This is how I calculated, and look, it's the same as what's in the data frame that I created for you previously, right? So it's going to select 3 random features for spot checking. Now, I'm going to copy this code, go back to Colab, add another code block, run it, and it's giving me an error here, right? So I'm going to go copy that error and say, your code gave the following error. Just copy that in here. Here is the updated code. So it had assumed customer ID was set as an index in the data frame, but it was not. So it's going to fix that and give me code again, and it's going to do that test, the record by record test to spot check that it's done the right thing. So copy this code, run it, and it's still giving me an error. This is what I was hoping would not happen, but I still, did I am still getting an error. I don't want to waste too much time on error checking. I was hoping there'd be one. It's not finding customer ID in the data set. And that's because we were using, it didn't put customer ID in, it didn't put customer ID in the data set. Okay, let's try this because I neglected to check whether customer ID had been put in the data set. That is not good. I'm going to try this one more time. If not, I'm going to have to remake the data set, the data frame. So this is what I say when ChatGPT, when these models do provide incomplete or incorrect information. Unfortunately, this example, okay, let's see. Here is an manual average. Here is something that there's an error here. The calculation, the step-by-step calculation versus the data frame that's wrong. So there are some errors here. Unfortunately, in this example, just for the interest of time, I'm not going to go and debug all of this. So I'm just going to proceed as if everything has been fixed. I'm going to go and say, okay, now that I'll skip over the imbalancing, the handling of imbalancing, but I'll just say now that I've created our features, what other data pre-processing steps are required? Please provide a high-level list without code. And you know what? I'm just going to stop this here. I'm going to paste this here that I can use within Notion. Let's just make sure I can use within Notion as a checklist. So we'll assume the features have been created. I'm going to say, hey, what are the next steps that are involved? And I'm going to show you an example of how you can use kind of the ChatGPT to create checklists or create project plans elsewhere. So you've seen a lot of stuff that's I'm using in Google Colab, but now look at how we can use this in another tool. This is more of a project management type thing. So those of you who've used Notion, it can be anything of your choice, right? So here's a checklist, and once this is created here, I can just copy this. I can go to Notion. I have a document created here. I can just put it in here, and now I can use this. Things that I've done. I can check or uncheck stuff. I can move the things around, and I can keep track of my entire process in a different system if I need to. So I can always come back. So that was just something, just a neat aside that I thought it's pretty useful. I'm not going to go over the imbalance and handling of imbalance and kind of explaining stuff. I've done so. I'm going to say let's use logistic regression as our baseline model. Please provide the Python code without any explanation. So I'm going to now use a logistic regression model. For those of you who've done a lot of modeling, a lot of machine learning, data sciences, pretty standard process of steps that you have to go through. When you set up a baseline, you do a lot of cross-validation, you do a lot of identifying and overcoming of redundancies, plotting learning curves, diagnosing performances. So in this case, I'm setting up a baseline model here. So copy the code, bring it over. And it gives me some sort of matrix here. I look at this matrix and I go, I want ChatGPT to interpret this matrix, right? So I'm just going to go back to ChatGPT and say, help me understand the output, the output. So it's telling me there's a classification report and a confusion matrix. And it's telling me how to interpret this. There are 138 true negatives and 51 true five true positives, right? So it's telling me how to interpret the results of this regression model, right? So hopefully you're getting a sense of kind of the power of the interaction between ChatGPT and Google Colab, and how to use ChatGPT to correct mistakes, how to use ChatGPT to validate its work, how to use ChatGPT to understand the output of the code that it's telling you to, that it's giving you. So there's a lot of benefit in this kind of cross connection between ChatGPT and Google Colab. I'm going to do maybe one. I'm just going to go into here. I'm going to say, can you recommend? I'm going to combine these two steps here. Just can you recommend and train 3 models that might be more powerful, that might be better in a single block of code with comments. No need to. Also, I plan to provide you with the output in the next step, so you can let me know which is the best model for me to use. Please have your code output all the relevant details that will help you make your final decision. So I'm saying, give me 3 more models that will be more powerful, better, potentially better than the baseline logistic regression model. But also, when you are giving me the code, make sure that it's going to spit out all the relevant output that I can then feed back to you, that you can then tell me which ones are good. Right? It's a very powerful tool, in my opinion. And hopefully you guys are seeing the power of kind of the interaction between chatbot and Google Colab or Jupyter environment. So it's doing a SVM, support vector machine, random forest, and a gradient boosting models. So I'm just going to copy this. I'm not going to look at all the stuff at the bottom here. I'm going to add the code, run them. Hopefully I don't have to debug anymore. Hey, it's giving me information here. I'm just going to copy all of this information. Go back to ChatGPT. Here is the output. Which model do you recommend would be best? I see Isaac's head is exploded there. And by the way, you can do this for, VLOOKUPs in Excel or XLOOKUP in Excel. You can do this for trend lines in Excel. You can do this if you want to do stuff where, you know, wherever you can use, you can do kind of this kind of interactive analysis, right? While it's doing its thing here, I'm going to do one last thing. I'm going to say, oh, new responses will use GPT 3.5 until your GPT 4 limit resets. Okay, so it answered the question here.
So close, Drew. So close.
Yes, and I'm down at my. So it says, given your need to predict customer churn effectively, particularly focusing on correctly identified churn customer, random forest is recommended despite its modest performance. It shows some ability to recognize churn customers more so than other models tested, right? And now for the last thing, and I don't care, I'll go to GPT 3.5. Oh, no, don't do that, don't do that. Here we go. Let's go back here. Let's see if this works. And I've done all this work. I got everything in the Google Colab. I want to kind of patch it all up together neatly. And for those of you who have used environments like this, you have code, but you also have what's called markdown blocks as well. I'm going to say, hey, summarize everything we've done this far and the recommended way forward. Kind of give me a summary report, but give me that output formatted using Google Colab Markdown, right? So I'm just going to do this here. Use the default model. So this is the power. It does everything. We're interacting with it. It's our assistant, our co-pilot, whatever it is. It does everything for us. I'm going to copy this, and now I'm going to go. I'm in the markdown here, and here it is. I get the summary. I don't. Maybe I don't need. Here. I don't need the kind of the beginning and the end. Maybe that's all I need for the markdown. And for those of you who have worked with PDFing interactive Python notebooks, you could PDF this whole thing, and you can store it somewhere. You can share it to someone saying, hey, this is all the stuff I've done, and you have your markdown in your text, and you're going back and forth and doing all your analysis. Maybe you don't want some of the outputs there. Maybe the ones that have errored out, you want to remove. Maybe I can go in here and delete this cell, right? But anyway, that's all I have. I've not, I think I may have tried to be too aggressive going over handling of imbalance and doing other kind of more sophisticated capabilities. But hopefully this was useful for you guys. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, that was really good, Drew. I know you think you may have been aggressive, but for most of us, I think you get a pretty good idea of some of the power of ChatGPT around all of this. So really good job. The only quick question I had is going back to the tree of thought stuff. That was used for the feature engineering portion really only, correct?
In this example, yes. And the whole idea with that where is that? Oh, I stopped sharing. Where's the sharing gone? Hang on. Hold your. Here we go. Tree of thoughts here. But what I want is this guy. Yeah. It was used for feature engineering. But it's if you look at this paper that was published December of last year, they kind of go into the details about this, and you can see GPT-4 chain of thought was giving 4% success. The tree of thought, it's a much more complicated, it's much more sophisticated, and you got to really be on top of it. But it's giving success rates that are 18 times higher, from 4% to 74% for very complicated for very complicated tasks. And they definitely go into all the details here, and it's a very robust, but it's you really need to know what you're doing with it, if that makes sense.
Yep, does. Yeah, thanks, Drew. And I will share my screen, and Ed, if you want to wrap things up in the interest of time.
Sure, happy to do that. Tom is showing on the screen the next webinar that we've scheduled. We may have something before then, I guess, but the next one that's on the schedule formally is on May 16th. It's on AI and disinformation, and I'm going to be giving that one. And we're also going to be having another technical meetup, our second one in the facility in Columbia, Maryland, on June the 13th. So look out for those. Go to the website and check them out, sign up. So I just want to conclude the webinar with a quick reminder. If you're a professional that's looking to get a technical certification, become a better leader, sharpen your innovation or project management skills, or improve in any number of ways, or if you represent an organization that's looking to help your workforce do these same sort of things, I invite you to please contact us. You can find us on the web at c4a.ai or umbctraining.com. And you can also email us at c4a@umbctraining.com. So thanks everybody for joining us. Have a great day, and hopefully we'll see you the next time at the latest, hopefully May the 16th. Take care, everyone.